You know at baby showers when they pass out those little slips of paper and ask you to give a piece of advice to the new mom? Well, ever since becoming a mom myself, roughly 13 years ago, my advice has been, mom brain never goes away. And I realize that that's not exactly the child-rearing advice that the organizers might have been looking for, but I do really believe that it is important for us moms to discuss openly things like memory or motivation or emotional regulation or overwhelm. Of course, now I know what I was calling mom brain was actually undiagnosed ADHD. But that doesn't mean that I wasn't also experiencing what many women go through for sometimes several years postpartum. That's why on today's episode of the ADHD Mompreneur, we are discussing why we experience mom brain, what the difference between mom brain and undiagnosed ADHD might be, and some strategies to help support and improve the symptoms that you're having, whether they're from mom brain or from ADHD. But before we dive into today's topic, I'm Christy Lingo, the ADHD Mompreneur. I'm an ADHD coach for ADHD mom business owners, and I provide them with accountability and executive function support so that they can turn their big business ideas into the success they know is possible, all while juggling the balls they have in the air as a parent. I've been working with ADHD populations since I started my first business nearly 15 years ago. I am also diagnosed with ADHD myself and the parent of an ADHD son. To learn more about my ADHD coaching services, visit theadhdmompreneur.com. So what exactly is mom brain? Is it even a real thing? Well, yes. And despite there not being a ton of research into mom brain, as with far too many women-specific health issues, there is some data that is starting to emerge about what is happening when you experience mom brain and why it happens. After giving birth, many moms will experience forgetfulness, brain fog, distractions, disorganization, and forgetfulness. And there are actually a couple of reasons why we may be experiencing this. So let's start first with the sciencey side. A 2016 study found a reduction in the amount of gray matter in postpartum women in the parts of the brain responsible for social cognition, or the way that we process, store, or apply information that comes in about people or social situations. It's theorized that this process happens in order to make room for the new neural pathways that are going to be responsible for the mother's care of the child. But while we're rebuilding these neural networks, which could take up to 6 years, we may have trouble remembering things or focusing or problem solving. Another study from 2017 found that the prefrontal cortex in the brain gets smaller during pregnancy. And the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that's responsible for executive functions like decision-making and focus and task initiation and organization. Outside of the actual brain changes that happen postpartum, you also experience a major change in your hormones. After giving birth, you will experience a massive drop in your estrogen levels, and estrogen is directly associated with the production of dopamine in your system. And dopamine, as we have discussed before, is a neurotransmitter that is responsible for carrying the messages about the executive functions in your brain. So that may explain on a hormonal level why you are experiencing these symptoms. Having a newborn also typically means a change to your sleep patterns, and sleep deprivation can lead to struggles with emotional regulation or trouble thinking or focusing. And you may be thinking, this is all great, Christy, but I'm experiencing these symptoms and my kids are not anywhere near being newborns anymore. Well, there could be a couple of different explanations for this. First, it could be the state of modern motherhood and all of the pressure and expectations we put on ourselves about the lives that we're creating for our children. Real talk, momming can be exhausting and overwhelming and stressful And all of this stress and overwhelm and exhaustion can lead to us feeling anxious or depressed. In turn, your anxiety may make you feel restless or hyperactive. It could cause you to have trouble focusing or make impulsive decisions or have trouble sitting still. And depression can cause a lack of focus or forgetfulness, as well as struggles with motivation or decision making. So wait, am I telling you that your postpartum brain is experiencing a loss of gray matter while it's building new neural pathways so you can have better memory and focus better, along with a drop in estrogen levels, which is directly related to the production of dopamine in your system, and a change to your sleep patterns, which can affect things like problem solving, focus, and emotional regulation, on top of all the societal pressures that we have for motherhood? Yes, I am. And do a lot of these symptoms also sound remarkably like ADHD? Yes, they do. So how can we tell the difference between average, everyday, run-of-the-mill mom brain and undiagnosed ADHD? Your best answer is to start with your primary care doctor. They can help to direct you to a mental health expert who may be able to help you evaluate what you're experiencing and why you're experiencing it. The major difference between mom brain and undiagnosed ADHD is the intensity and the duration of the symptoms that you're experiencing. With mom brain, your forgetfulness, distractedness, and mood swings will typically resolve themselves within a few years of your final time giving birth. Once all that new gray matter is formed. With undiagnosed ADHD, you were typically experiencing a lot of these symptoms prior to even getting pregnant. There's even a chance that during your pregnancy, you saw your symptoms subside because of the increase in estrogen levels, creating more dopamine in your system, as well as a quick return to the intensity of your symptoms postpartum because of the quick drop after giving birth. But whether it is mom brain or ADHD or a combination of both, I cannot emphasize enough the importance for those of us moms to take our mental health seriously. Think about your car. If you never changed the oil and never topped off any of the fluids, it would eventually break down, right? And if you don't give your brain a break, whether you have ADHD or not, your brain will eventually burn out and shut down too. That's why I want to wrap up today by giving you some suggestions about how you can protect and support your busy mom brain. And honestly, these tips are important for all of us mamas to remember. The ones experiencing mom brain, the ones experiencing ADHD symptoms, and the ones who just need to take better care of themselves. First, practice asking for help. I don't know where this idea that we had to do it all on our own came from, but I will say that going through my cancer treatment meant that I could not do it all, and it gave me a chance to practice asking for help. Now, I do not wish cancer treatment on any of you, but I will say if you can learn from me, I have carried the lessons I learned about not trying to do it all and actually asking my spouse, my kids, my family, my friends for help in certain areas has really helped to reduce the amount of fatigue and overwhelm I feel as a mom. Next, try to connect with other moms. I have to say that joining the Moms Club in my area was one of the best things that I did when my kids were young. It's just nice to know that you aren't alone in this world and that there are other moms out there experiencing the same highs and lows that you are. Number 3, try to get sleep. And I get it, especially if your kids are young or they're still coming in the middle of the night. It is really hard to protect your sleep. But I also know that when I was complaining about my sleep several years ago, I would spend long periods of time scrolling through my phone well into the night when I could have been sleeping. So if there is a way that you can sneak in 30 more minutes, 60 more minutes, or a couple more hours, a couple of nights a week. Try to fit it in. Sleep is one of the most important things you can do to keep yourself healthy. Next, create some sort of external memory. So forgetfulness is one of my number one ADHD symptoms, but I know plenty of non-ADHD moms who also struggle with remembering to pack a lunch for a field trip or put all the soccer games on a schedule. That's why I encourage you to figure out ways that work for you to get the ideas or thoughts out of your head and into another form. It could be taking notes on your phone. It could be writing them in a small notebook. It could be recording them on a voice memo. Anything you can do to get thoughts that you have or actions that you need to take out of your head and into a more solid, unforgettable form. Next, eat plenty of brain-supporting foods. Things like fish, beans, eggs, dark green leafy vegetables, and whole grains can provide the support and the nutrients that your brain needs as it's creating all that new gray matter or just to support it in general. And some of you aren't going to like this very much, but try to limit the amount of sugar and alcohol that you take in because those substances can have the opposite effect that those healthy foods do. And finally, practice patience and grace. You are doing a great job. Even on those days where you are 100% sure that what is happening right now is going to come up again in your child's therapy later on in life. We all do really great things as moms, and we all have struggles. And as we've learned today, the emotional dysregulation or the forgetfulness or the trouble following through or focusing that you're feeling has nothing to do with who you are as a mom, and everything to do with stuff going on inside your brain and your body. So try to give yourself some love. Give yourself some grace. Know that you are not alone in raising these tiny humans and trying to make sure that they don't turn out to be little a-holes. I'm curious what your experience with mom brain might have been, or if you feel like you still might be experiencing it today, even though your kids are in high school. Drop me a comment below or leave me a voicemail message at the link in the show description. And be sure that you've hit the follow or subscribe button so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes like next week, where we will talk about how you can create a plan for working and being a mom this summer. Until then, keep making your ADHD journey part of your success story. I'll be here rooting for you. If you're a business-owning mom with ADHD, you're going to need to grab my free, customizable essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs by visiting bit.ly/checklists for ADHD mompreneurs or by following the link in the episode description. Do it now before you forget. Until next time,